In terms of how to approach this assessment, let's look at qualified, and I'll give you some tips on what I would do when approaching this type of work. Alrighty, so here we are on the actual application, and we're gonna hit try the practice assessment. So I'm just gonna sign up with my name. And hit start. Okay, so it's asking me what language would I prefer for this solution. I'm gonna choose Swift because it's the language I'm most comfortable with, and recognize that you can change this anytime. So if you choose a language here now and you decide that you wanna switch to another one, you can do that. So let's go ahead and start in Swift. So you see your code here, and you see some instructions, but there's actually much more to qualified that we can bring to the light. So let's go to the IDE settings tab. This allows you to customize the look of what you want your assessment experience to be. So the layout, you can do compact, which is what it is now, or full height. I'm gonna choose full height because it allows me to see the test and the console all on the same screen. Next, you can see this help tab. And the help will give you basically tips on how to submit your solution, how to run the test, which we're gonna go over as I do this practice assessment. Then there's a notes tab. Personally, I love this notes tab because it allows me to jot down my ideas as I'm actually going through the instructions and talk about how I actually am interpreting what I'm reading, right? So here I can write pseudocode, and this is all done before I actually start writing the code for the assessment. And I think it's a good way to just get all your thoughts out there. Now let's actually go to the instructions tab. How I would approach this is first I would spend the most amount of time reading the instructions. So what does this assessment actually want me to do? Now for this practice assessment, these instructions are just talking about what qualified is and how to use it. But in the real assessment, this is where you would see what the challenge is. So spend your time on looking at it piece by piece and figure out what it means to you. So in this example, it says complete this function to return either hello name or hello there based on input. So let me jot down some notes. What does that mean to me? I know we're gonna have some name parameter that could potentially be empty, because they say based on input, and there's a hello there that doesn't include the name. And then I know that if there is a name, I need to use the name in my return for the hello string. This is a pretty simple example, so I only have these 2 notes to take. Now using those notes, I'm gonna go and write the code. So first, my notes say the name parameter could potentially be empty. So let me check for that. If the name is empty, I'm gonna return hello there. So that's the first step that I wrote in my notes. Then, now I wanna return the part that includes the name. Great, I've written my code, and I think I'm ready to run the test. So I see here that the test is checking for inputting the name. So I run it and it passes. What happens if it doesn't pass? What if I want to actually add some debugging in my code? So I can add a print statement. So if I add a print statement and run the test, you can expand the tab for the test, and it'll show a log that contains any print statements that you've added to your code. And that's a great way to test things if things are not going as you expected and you're trying to figure out where you are in the code. So now that I've run my test and they're passing, I'm gonna go ahead and submit this assessment. I made a mistake. I capitalized the word. Notice that. So I'm going to resubmit. And it passes. And it tells me to go to the next challenge. When you're doing the real assessment, you have to make sure that you submit each assessment individually. And then at the end, you'll see the option to submit both assessments. And when you submit both assessments, that's when you're actually submitting it to Code 2040 for your application. Now that we've gone through how to use Qualified and a practice assessment, I just want to wish you luck. Realize that you're completely capable of doing this assessment, and I think that you're going to do the best that you can do. Have a good day.